US 136. Yeah. Alright, we are talking US 136. It's the week of the Indy 500, the only auto race that matters in my opinion, although I probably won't watch it anyway. So, let's start your engines for US 136. US 136 goes from central Nebraska, just outside of Arapahoe, to Indianapolis, Indiana, or technically Speedway, Indiana is actually where it ends. Let's start by talking about eastbound US 136. Here we are in Arapahoe, Nebraska. US 6 and US 34 go straight, but we see no sign of the begin of 136 coming shortly. Outside of Arapahoe, now we are getting our junction US 136 to the right coming up ahead. US 136 is first going to be signed for Edison and Oxford, and there's less than 1,000 people between those two towns, and in fact Edison has a whopping 133. Here is the actual corner where US 136 begins, so we will be turning right. We get a mileage sign saying Edison 2 miles away, Oxford and Alma 30 miles away, so nothing too distant yet. Alma would be the right choice for the bottom line. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. We're nearing Alma and we are going to be meeting US 133 and we will become concurrent with it for a short time. And then here in Alma, we will split from US 133. It'll continue south and we will continue east. Next up, we've got Republican City and Franklin. So Franklin is now our bottom line. Republican City named after the nearby river, not the political party, which I presume did not exist at the time that they named the town. Outside of Franklin, Red Cloud now becomes our bottom line control city. Red Cloud is Willa Cather's childhood home. It is 2 blocks off of US 136, so here is a look at it. Willa Cather, my Antonia. I got assigned that book 3 times in college, and it wasn't until the 3rd time I got assigned it that I actually bothered to read it. It was pretty boring. Red Cloud is pretty well preserved from the old days. We've got these cobblestone streets, so it's pretty interesting. And we're meeting US 281 in Red Cloud. Outside of Red Cloud, we are getting fairly distant control cities with Hebron and Fairbury. We meet US 81 in Hebron, and in Hebron, we are signed for Beatrice. We're skipping Fairbury. Beatrice, quite a bit larger than anything else around, although Fairbury will be the biggest city we hit so far. And here is Fairbury. This is a town big enough for a stoplight and a drive-through coffee place, which definitely cannot be said for any of the small towns we've passed through so far. And in Beatrice, we're meeting US 77 in downtown, and we can see it is a fairly substantial town. It's something around 13,000, so it's a lot bigger than anything we've come across. I would actually say we could sign Beatrice from the jump on this road, but you could get there faster staying on 6 and 34, so that doesn't quite work. Coming out of Beatrice, Tecumseh is now our bottom line city. And in Tecumseh, we're meeting a state highway at a stop sign, and we are going to be signed for Auburn next. In Auburn, we're meeting US 75, the great US 75. I did a video about US 75 you can check out right over here. Coming out of Auburn, we are signed for Brownsville and Rockport. Rockport is in Missouri. We cross the Missouri River on the Brownsville Bridge, a nice looking old cantilever bridge. And welcome to Missouri. We hit our 2nd state. We're meeting I-29 soon after we get into Missouri, and we are getting the abysmal control cities of St. Joseph and Council Bluffs. This obviously should be Kansas City and Omaha. From 29's perspective, we are signed for Brownsville, Nebraska, and Rockport. So in Nebraska, they signed it as one word. Here in Missouri, it's a city in Missouri, so I assume it's correct. We're signing it as 2 words. Outside of Rockport, we're meeting US 275, and this is the end of US 275. And Missouri is going small ball. Here in Rockport, we are getting Tarkio 8 miles ahead as our next control city. Near Tarkio, we're meeting US 59. US 59 signed for Fairfax 6 miles away. Obviously, southbound US 59 should be signed for Lawrence. And in Tarkio, we split with US 59, and we will turn right to continue. We're meeting a county road, and Burlington Junction is going to be our next control city, 16 miles away. In Burlington Junction, we're meeting US 71, so we will become concurrent with that for a little while. Real Indiana 16 vibes so far from this road. We are splitting to the left in Marysville, and we're going to be signed for Stanberry next. US 71 straight ahead is signed for St. Joseph and Kansas City. So if you can sign 71 for Kansas City, you could sign I-29 for Kansas City. It's the much faster way there. In Stanberry, we're meeting another Kansas City headed road with US 169. We split from 169 and now we're signed Albany straight ahead, only 6 miles. Now here in Albany, we are getting Allendale as our next control city. Coming out of Allendale, we finally get our first swing of Missouri. We're getting Lancaster 106 miles away, so that's quite a distance. But why would they pick Lancaster? Why is that the one they're picking? Lancaster has 675 people. There are bigger towns we pass before we get to Lancaster. Bethany, at 16 miles away, should have been the bottom line since we left Beatrice, in my opinion. We are meeting US 69, nice, and we will become concurrent with that. In Bethany, we will split from US 69 and we will head toward I-35. I-35 is signed quite a bit better, signed for Des Moines and Kansas City, and we will cross over I-35 right now. From the I-35 perspective, US 136 is signed for Bethany and Princeton. We were in Princeton just last week. And we get to Princeton, where we meet US 65, the great US 65, and I did a video about US 65 just last week that you can check out right over there. And we will be concurrent with US 65 for a little bit. Our concurrency ends and we are now signed for Unionville, while US 65 is signed for Trenton. Near Unionville, we're meeting routes E and EE. This was requested by Andrew Devore because it reminds him of the Markiplier Lord Farquaad E meme when Shrek memes were still popular. Hope I didn't mispronounce that too much. I've actually never seen Shrek, so I don't really know the memes very well. But thank you for that request. Andrew requested that by leaving a $5 super thanks as a comment on a recent video. Anybody can do that, and you can check upcoming videos in the posts section to see if there's anything you're interested in, and I appreciate everybody who does. We've also got a Patreon going where you can make requests depending on what your membership is. If you have a $5 membership, you can get 1 request a month. If you have higher memberships, you can get more. And I appreciate everybody doing that as well. Sometimes we'll have exclusive content on the Patreon, such as on the US 65 video. There will be a little snippet that is not on YouTube. After passing Unionville, we are getting Lancaster on the map once again. This time it's much closer at 26 miles away. Near Lancaster, we are meeting US 63, so we will be concurrent with US 63 for a short time. We're splitting with US 63 by turning right, and we are assigned for Lancaster. Lancaster is just around the bend at this point. Coming out of Lancaster, we're signed for Downing, Memphis, and Keokuk, and no, not that Memphis, Missouri. We don't actually go through Keokuk, you turn onto Missouri 81 to get there. We are now signed for Wayland. Right outside Keokuk, just past that, 1 mile past that sign, we're getting another mileage sign. We will have Keokuk, Iowa as our control city at 20 miles away. That should have been our control city probably since Bethany. Right now we are meeting Missouri 27, which at this point is acting as the Avenue of the Saints. This was requested by Andrew Pfantz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He wanted to see the Flying J as he frequently stops there when he's traveling to or from Iowa City. And we can see 27 is signed for Iowa City right here. So thank you for that request. A little further on, we meet US 61, so we know we're near Avenue of the Saints if US 61 is around, and we are going to join it and turn left. We cross the Des Moines River with US 61 and head into Iowa. And here, the people of Iowa welcome you, although we will not be in Iowa for long. We only have a couple miles of Iowa on this road. It's probably the shortest road in Iowa. We split with US 61 and with 218, we are signed for Business 61 and 136 straight ahead. Here in downtown Keokuk, we will be turning right for US 136. We see Illinois on that sign telling us that we're heading toward Illinois. And wow, this town looks kind of bombed out. I'm not sure what is going on here. Looks like cool architecture though. And here's a look at downtown Keokuk. So yeah, we see nice looking buildings, but not too much going on. And here is the Keokuk National Bank building that we passed right by. I assume there's no bank there anymore, but again, nice looking building. On the southern edge of town, we are going to head to Illinois, so we are going to cross the Mississippi River here. while crossing the Mississippi River, we get Illinois state line. On the Illinois side, we are meeting State Highway 96, and we are going to be signed for Carthage and Quincy, the other direction for Nauvoo. We're not going to Quincy, of course. Quincy is the direction that southbound Illinois 336, which is a freeway in these parts, will head to. This is also 110, the KC Chicago Expressway. We're going to be turning left onto 136 East, signed for Macomb. US 136 is going to exit 336. 336 signed for Macomb. We're going to be signed for Tennessee and Colchester, and I have absolutely no idea why we're exiting. On the other side of Tennessee and Colchester, very small towns, we meet 336 once again. We see South 336 for Quincy. We are heading straight ahead for Macomb. So if we look at the map here, 136 crosses over through these towns and then re-meets this same freeway. So I don't know why we don't just stay on it and get off at the second exit for Macomb. On 336, that exit is 136 for Colchester and Macomb. Macomb's a fairly big town. It's the home of Western Illinois University, and we are meeting US 67 there. We are signed for East 136 Havana. And right here's where we split with US 67. US 67, kind of the patron saint road of Forgotonia. We're meeting US 24, the great US 24, and we're going to be concurrent with that, heading right, signed for Havana and Astoria. So Havana's for us, Astoria's for 24. And here is where we're splitting from US 24, so Havana will still be our control city. We cross over the Illinois River on this cool old bridge, and we are going to head into Havana from there. In Havana, we're going to be turning left, and we are now signed for McLean. We meet Interstate 155, kind of the weirdest spur route in Illinois, and, well, I guess 180 is weirder. And it is signed north for Peoria and south for Lincoln. And now in the McLean area, we are meeting I-55 itself, which is signed south for Springfield and north for Bloomington, as IDOT does, instead of signing it for Chicago and St. Louis. 136 does not count as a major interchange. As we have seen, this is a pretty rural road that avoids much in the way of development. Coming off of I-55, 136 is signed for McLean and Hayworth, so Hayworth will be our next control city. In the Hayworth area, we are meeting US 51. This was requested by saturnotaku. He says this is not an exit that he takes, but it is one that he passes on the way to and from Decatur. Thank you for that request. We are meeting I-74, which is a road we're going to be near and dear with for the next, well, the rest of our existence. 74 signed for Bloomington and Champaign, rather than Peoria and Indianapolis. We meet US 150 out here, kind of in the middle of nowhere. We continue straight to go east. Not a stoplight road, a four-way stop. And right near Rantoul, we are meeting I-57. And Rantoul was our control city since we passed US 51. But Rantoul should have been our control city since Macomb, honestly, because we don't really pass through much of anything between here and there. Here in Rantoul, we're meeting US 45, which is signed for Paxton and Urbana. It's going to be going the same places as I-57, but has smaller control cities, which makes sense because it's the smaller road. We are signed for Danville, so that is good signage. And we're meeting Illinois Highway 1, Halsted Street, and we are going to turn right and continue south down that. Here in Danville, we are meeting US 150 once again, and US 136 is going to be turning left, while Illinois Highway 1 continues south. We're now signed for Business District of Danville. And here is what downtown Danville looks like as we continue east down Main Street. Outside of Danville, we are signed for Covington, and that's going to be in Indiana, 2 I-74 if you turn right. And more to discover. Welcome to Indiana, our final state of this road. We're meeting Indiana Highway 63, which is the US 41 cutoff, and it's got the major control cities of Chicago and Evansville, so that's pretty cool. Here is Covington, Indiana. Looks like a pretty nice town. Coming out of Covington, we are signed for Veedersburg and for Crawfordsville. We go under I-74, but don't have any access to it on our way to Veedersburg. And in Veedersburg, we are meeting US 41, so we'll become concurrent with that. I've got a video on US 41. You can check that out right over there. I go through Indiana on that one. We're leaving Veedersburg, the city that makes the bricks that made the Brickyard, and turning left onto 136 for Crawfordsville and Hillsborough. Skipping ahead to Crawfordsville, a much larger city than most of the cities on 136, and we are getting US 231 along with Indiana 32 and 47 in downtown Crawfordsville. This is a very Indiana sign, this overhead sign salad. It was hard to find many signs along the way here because we go through a bunch of small towns without many major junctions other other than in the middle of town. We see from Jamestown that 136 is signed for Crawfordsville one way and Indianapolis the other way. 74 would be faster, but 136 is reasonable. And we can see from Danville to Indianapolis, we are right next to I-74. I-74 is always going to be faster for longer distances, but 136 does a decent job as well. Skipping ahead to Indianapolis, we see Indianapolis welcomes you. And right here, we are getting Girls School Road, which is also Indiana Highway 134. And this was requested by Green Bean because it is less than a mile long and connects 136 to Indiana Women's Prison. So, don't pick up any hitchhikers here, I suppose. Or do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. We're nearing our end here. We're getting 465, which is not signed for anything. 465 north, 74 west. 465 south and 74 east ramp is currently closed because they are redoing this entire interchange. And we can see right here is where you would turn left onto 465 and I-74. So this is the official end of 136. You can see an end 136 sign in the distance there right under the stoplight. And here is a close-up of our end 136 sign, and this was requested by Boss King Inc. because he says it's always bugged him that the sign is after 465 north where 136 actually ends. I actually think it's fine. It's right after 465 north. Anybody continuing on after 465 are the people who need to know that 136 ends. But thank you for that request. And here is the ramp coming off of 465 here, and we see it's signed for Claremont and Speedway. Speedway is to the right, and that is Crawfordsville Road. And it heads to the Speedway, along with the city of Speedway. Now, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2 miles ahead, so we gotta go down there. So here is a view of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and here's a wider view of the Speedway as we head toward it. And here's a nice view of Gate 2, the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And yeah, I agree, Indy 500, it's the only race that matters. And here's a look at the actual track of the old Brickyard. I don't know how Street View got onto here, but hey, it's there, so why not check it out? All right, let's quickly go westbound on 136, and I'm just gonna talk about the way it should be, really. So 136 is leaving for Crawfordsville Road and 136 West, and we also see 74 West Peoria. So 74 West Peoria cuts off of this distributor ramp from 465, 136 West and Crawfordsville Road still straight ahead. And coming down the ramp, we get the same thing, Speedway and Claremont, and I don't agree with Claremont. I do think this should actually be Brownsburg, because Claremont is really small. Brownsburg is kind of the first immediate suburb beyond that has a substantial amount of people in it. After Brownsburg, I do think Crawfordsville should be the next city signed, and here in Liston, where we meet State Route 39, it is in fact signed on 136. After Crawfordsville, I would sign Petersburg, because you kind of can't not because of that intersection with 41. So Petersburg would be the next one to be signed. Coming out of Petersburg, they are signing Danville, Illinois, 17 miles away, and I think that is the correct thing to do. Yes, 74 is like 1 minute faster, but 136 works fine. I'm just showing you this because this is kind of cool. In Danville, when we meet Illinois Highway 1, we are getting North Chicago. Illinois Highway 1, Control City takes precedent, and it's going all the way to Chicago. That's pretty awesome. However, we are getting Rantoul when we separate from Illinois Highway 1, and Rantoul is what I would sign 136 coming out of Danville anyway. From Rantoul, I would sign Macomb all the way across the state because we just pass through small towns, but Illinois doesn't do it until we get to Havana, so here's our first Macomb sign that I could find in Havana. I would sign Keokuk coming out of Macomb. This is near Carthage, where we are getting a turn off to stay on 136 exiting itself from Highway 336. I would have went ahead and signed that all the way from Macomb. And there's a look at the lock and dam in Keokuk. I didn't show this on the way, and this is as we cross the Mississippi River. This is pretty cool. Coming out of Keokuk, I would sign Bethany, but we don't get a sign for Bethany until we get to Lancaster. But there's really nothing between Keokuk and Bethany. Out of Bethany, I would actually sign Beatrice, Nebraska, because again, very small towns, but we don't get any sign for Beatrice until we get to Rockport, which is still signing a city in a different state, so that's pretty good. And 69 miles to Beatrice. Nice. Coming out of Beatrice, I would sign Fairbury because it's the biggest city we pass the rest of the way, and that is what they do. And coming out of Fairbury, I would not sign anything until Alma. I would have Alma as the bottom line city all the way from Fairbury, but we have to go all the way to Riverton before Alma first shows up, and it's 33 miles away. And then after Alma is only like 1,500 people, but I'd only sign it because of the curve that US 136 makes it kind of impossible to not sign it. I really would sign McCook all the way from Beatrice, but it'd be faster to take other routes. If we're wanting to stay on 136, I would now sign McCook. I would sign McCook coming out of Alma. And here is where we are going to be ending at US 6 and US 34. Our junction is coming up. And interestingly, we see McCook left for 46 miles away instead of the closer Arapahoe. That's a pretty good swing for Nebraska. And finally, we do get an end 136, and that's nice. 136 gets end signs on both ends, so good job there. All right, let's talk about Todd's the way it should be for US 136. I'm going to say eastbound. It should be a lot more trimmed down than what they do, at least for the bottom line city. I would go Alma, Beatrice, Auburn, Bethany, Keokuk, Macomb, Rantoul, Danville, Crawfordsville, Petersburg, and Indianapolis. Maybe Speedway after 465, but that's not 136 anymore. Westbound, I go Brownsburg, Crawfordsville, Petersburg, Danville, Rantoul, Macomb, Keokuk, Bethany, Beatrice, Fairbury, Alma, and McCook. And that is all that we've got for today for 136. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. Next week, we've got a gimmick, so there's not really any way to do requests on that, but we're doing California 99 the week after that. Lots of stuff you can request for there. 635 in Texas coming up fairly soon as well. Until next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.